You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Stephen, let me read you the letter that Roger Goodell sent to Ray Rice because it just surfaced. As you acknowledged during our meeting, your conduct was unquestionably inconsistent with league policies and the standard of behavior required of everyone who is part of the NFL. The league is an entity that depends on integrity and in the confidence of the public, and we simply cannot tolerate conduct that endangers others or reflects negatively on our game. This is particularly true with respect to domestic violence and other forms of violence against women. I believe that you are sincere in your desire to learn from this matter and move forward toward a healthy relationship and successful career. I am now focused on your actions and expect you to demonstrate by those actions that you are prepared to fulfill those expectations. That was Goodell's letter to Ray Rice.
Fair letter, too. Fair letter. Accurately expressed his position. And we go from here.
I think the part about the public having confidence in them, that's why, even if the NFL was looking at Ray Rice's situation, looking at past incidents, looking at him being a first-time offender and saying, look, 2 games is what happens in our league with this sort of incident and based on Roger Goodell meeting with them, even if he had all of that justification, I think from a PR standpoint, it is a stupid move from the NFL. That's because of the way they're trying to appeal to women.
I think the most poignant point you made was the growing popularity of the sport amongst female fans.
Yes.
You bring that point up, there is no denying that such a decision as in the 2-game suspension is going to be frowned upon. There's no denying that. At the very least, you've got to look at it and say, okay, it's a bit normal. Now, again, I thought 2 games was relatively appropriate in light of the fact that we don't know all the specifics combined with the fact that they've married, they've gone to counseling. Apparently that incident itself, whatever transpired, was a complete aberration, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm not somebody, I completely agree with your position. You don't put your hands on a woman.
Right.
You walk away. You do everything that you can. But I remember I've covered athletes that sat there and said, well, did I really, really hit her? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, Stephen, what if I was being chased with a machete? Which I was. And in an effort to get the machete away from her, you understand? Physicality ensued because I'm trying to get the machete away.
Right.
Did I hit her? And I'm like, well, you put it that way. What did you do? Did you punch her in the face? Did you do? No, I might have shoved her and pushed her away and tried to get the damn machete. I've had an athlete tell me that before. Another incident when a guy got in trouble because he reacted. Well, that particular athlete walked in on his wife with another man. And in an effort to get at him, okay, she got in the middle. So, again, when we sit here and we hear these incidences, the reason I don't like to bring this up is because as somebody raised by 5 women who has never put his hands on a woman, who doesn't believe in doing so, at the same time, I do think it's important that when guys who find themselves in precarious situations like this, we don't just blanketly say, oh, you put your hand on a woman, without even asking what happened. Because maybe you didn't strike her. Maybe you didn't hit her. Maybe you shoved her because you were trying to get the hell away from a machete. And so all of those, this is why it's so dicey. And when it comes to people and their personal relationships with one another, I'm not saying we can't discuss it, particularly if it ends up in the police blotters, Ryan, because that's public consumption and it's open season then.
Right, and NFL suspension is as well.
But I always fear when we have a refusal to even consider circumstances, because all we heard was the report. not in Ray Rice's case, because we saw a woman unconscious being dragged out of the elevator. That's entirely different. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about Ray Rice here. I'm talking about I always step back when we just say, well, this is what happened. Well, do we know that happened? Because if it happened the way you're saying it happened, sure. But what if it wasn't that way? That's the problem.
Angel in Cleveland. Angel, you're on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline with Stephen A. and Ruocco.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Ryan. Listen, I am a survivor of an 8-year abusive relationship. And there's 3 things I'm going to let y'all know off rip. That ain't the first time he hit her. Second thing, the fact that she married him don't mean nothing. That fool I was with for 8 years several times tried to get me to marry him because I can't testify against him if I'm married to him. The third thing, I don't care what his family said. That wasn't a one-time incident. He's done it before, and trust and believe, he's going to do it again.
Allow me to interject. First of all, what's your name again?
Angel.
Angel, first of all, I'm incredibly sorry that you went through the experience that you went
Don't
through.
be sorry. That was my stupidity.
I understand that, but I'm still sorry about that you had to endure that, because no man should be doing something like that. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, regardless of your situation, I am quite sure that you know that you can't definitively say that every situation is like that.
No, I can't definitively
I mean,
say
I'm
that.
not saying that's all I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that the reality is we have an obligation to let you know that regardless of your experience and the level of expertise that you have on this subject, certainly compared to myself and Ryan, we have an obligation to point out that nobody knows if that was the first time or not.
I promise you, it was not the first time.
I know that's what you believe, but we
Angel,
can't say, Angel, we can't say that, Angel. We can't. We can't do that.
I know you can't.
Well, what I mean by it, Angel, is this: isn't there always a first time? Like nothing ever happens for the 5th time. You see what I'm saying? Unless there was 4 previous times.
Stephen,
there's always a first time. Now, maybe
always a first time, Stephen.
Yes.
Let me say this to you.
Mm-hmm.
You are one of the most intelligent black men I have the privilege of watching in this era. Okay, you truly are. My son is going to journalism school because he idolizes you.
Thank you.
Okay, but here's the thing: if you poll 50 women who have been abused and ask them one question, the first time he hit you with his hand closed, was that the first time he hit you? I promise you they're going to say no, because it's an amp up. It goes from a push to maybe a push and a shake. You know what? Perfect person, good friend of yours. Ask AI, the machete man. Ask him. That wasn't the first time they got into an argument. And I'm telling you, I understand what y'all saying. But I'm looking at it from the other side of the fence.
And I'm saying to you, to some degree, so are we. To some degree, Angel, so are we. We're looking at it from your side of the fence too. The only dispute that I have, see, to me, I guess what I'm trying to say, and correct, and stay with me on this, Ryan.
Yeah.
I want to see if you agree.
Yeah.
Angel, here's where I'm going. I would feel more comfort with you saying it wouldn't be the last time, as opposed to it wasn't the first time.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying, Ryan?
Yes.
In other words, to say that it won't be the last, I think could be a bit more concrete as opposed to assuming it wasn't the first time.
Okay, I understand where
you see what I'm saying. You see where I'm going, Angel?
I understand what you're going, and I'm very passionate about it. I
understand. And listen, I'm in no position to say you're wrong. You should be. You've earned the right to be passionate about it, and you're more of an expert on it than any of us could ever hope to be. Trust me on that. I'm just simply saying we can never definitively say when the first time was for somebody in a situation that isn't our own.
True.
Now, but we can predict that it won't be the last. based on based on what has happened. So I would be more comfortable with your assumption that it won't be the last rather than your proclamation that it wasn't the first. That's all I'm saying. Right now
they in the honeymoon. Right now they in what's called the honeymoon spirit.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing I would say, and Angel, thank you for the call and for sharing. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that because it's terrible. We don't wish that on anybody.
I hope that man was doing that to us rotten in jail.
Yes. The one thing I would say that I do agree with Angel is them getting married doesn't mean anything. I
totally agree with that.
Nothing. That I do agree with. That means nothing about
it means absolutely nothing. But I guess for me, what I'm trying to say is that if you went think about it this way, and that might not mean nothing. I mean, look at OJ, for crying out loud. But Ray Rice's history has been unblemished.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like it's been unblemished, and then this happens. Why? What were the circumstances surrounding it? But again, that still is no excuse for him to hit her, especially unconscious. But all I'm saying is, not in Ray Rice's situation, but in so many others, we don't know a lot of details. In this, we saw the man dragging his unconscious fiancée out of the elevator. So I tend to side with you with that, Ryan.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
What the hell is this I'm hearing, Ryan?
Well,
about Tanaka. What the hell's going on?
How about you can hear it from Brian Cashman first? He was on the Michael Kay show yesterday. This is what he had to say. The Yankees GM on his injured ace.
It's again one of those. I kind of check in every few days. I just was talking to our trainer about it, and he's improved, but he still feels he still feels it. Although on a daily basis, it's decreases. So that's good, but it's not good that he's still feeling it at this stage. So we just day by day, and week by week, and we'll adjust accordingly. So right now, it's too early to call.
Well, a lot of people starting to wonder about the timeline and waiting to get surgery if he's going to need it. Cashman was also asked about that, Stephen, and if he's worried about Tanaka not getting the surgery.
No, we get dictated by what or directed, I'd say, by what the medical experts say. And we just talked about Banuelos, and Banuelos is coming back from Tommy John here in the first year. Right now, isn't really back to what he was before the TJ surgery. And there's a lot of success with the surgery, but we've also have a great deal of experience after the surgery has occurred with certain guys. They're not the same when they come back. So there's no guarantee that Tanaka, if he has the surgery, will be back. So first and foremost, we get guided by what the doctors, and again, this represents the group of physicians that are some of the best in the entire country, and their recommendation, all three of them combined. It's not like the Supreme Court where it was, not a unanimous decision. It was a unanimous decision here where it was like, this is a situation. It's a small tear. None of us recommend surgery. It's possible that he gets back with PRP injections and goes forward without incident, and the stuff isn't any different. If you do the surgery, there's a high percentage chance he comes back and he's fine. But there's also those guys that don't come back the same, and they're a little different or a lot different. And so we just have to play it out. We're not doctors. We're just going to follow what the doctors say.
See now, Stephen, all of that is not good news, but I do think it is a good reminder to anybody who's saying, why don't you just get Tommy John now so he can be back next season? You know why? Because it's not an exact science. And more we're learning that about pitchers, that you don't necessarily come back ever the same. You don't have a defined timetable. So if you can potentially get through this without having that surgery, you have to exhaust those options and not just jump to the surgery.
I really, really need help. I just need somebody to explain to me how baseball became America's pastime for decades and decades and decades. And guys used to go through so much to pitch. And how now, these guys can't last a year before potentially needing Tommy John surgery. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
I think it's hard to understand. Right now, I had this conversation with Joe Girardi a couple of weeks ago, Stephen. And in Baltimore, I did the Joe Girardi show filling in for Meredith Morakovitz, and I was asking about it. And I said, at some point, do you collectively as a league have to get together and figure this out? Because,
it's costing a lot of money.
Stephen, it costs a lot of money. It also strips the game of its stars. Think about it from this standpoint. Right now, baseball is more devoid of offense than maybe ever before. I mean, it is really, really suffering offensively. So what is interesting to watch? What's the most interesting thing to watch? Well,
home runs, hitting, offense.
Well, yeah, it is. But if you're
the problem is the more offense, the longer the games go.
Yeah, but here's my problem. But that's not even my point. My point is, if you don't have the offense, then your most interesting thing to watch is truly dominating incredible starting pitching. That's still interesting. Watching a Matt Harvey is interesting. Watching a Steven Strasburg is interesting. Watching a Masahiro Tanaka is interesting. But what's the problem with all three of those guys? Every single one of them has, while their momentum is building, had it totally stunted and stripped because of arm injuries. And that's my problem for the league, is right now those injuries are totally eliminating the momentum of the only stars that the sport is really capable of building, because there is an offense. So, yeah, there's some exceptions. There's a Mike Trout. There's a Bryce Harper, maybe, although Harper hasn't come along anywhere near the way Trout has. But for the most part, the guys who can shine in this day and age are those young, vibrant arms. The problem is none of them can stay healthy. So then who are you gravitating to? Who is the guy you're able to watch on a regular basis? And that's why, you're right, Steve, they need to figure it out, because otherwise I don't know how the sport grows the way you need it to.
That's true. That's true. They got to figure it out. And not only that, you've got pitchers just demanding money. I mean, I'm sorry, Ryan. I've always been in the mindset, I'm not paying some dude $100 million, $200 million that I get once every 5 days. I don't care how great he is. I'm not doing it. I just can't. If I'm giving up that kind of money, you need to be an everyday performer for me. I can't make money off of somebody where I can charge my audience once every 5 days. You see what I'm saying? My paying customer.
Right.
I need, if I'm investing that kind of money, it's in that everyday dude.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean,
and I understand that the Kershaws of the world, I mean, look at LA staff, Kershaw, Greinke. I mean, if they got Price, it would be lethal. But last time I checked, St. Louis went to the World Series with Boston. Kershaw wasn't anywhere to be found. Not his fault, don't get me wrong. But he gave you what he gave you for a couple of games. What about the rest of the games? What could he do?
Yeah, but Stephen, I mean, I understand what you're saying about the money, but the reality is that's the market and what it costs to secure the rights of these guys.
I understand. I'm just telling you, it'd be a problem, man.
Well, but look,
I'd rather have an awesome lineup with guys that can roll up on me once every day, right? Than invest most of my money in a dude that's available once every 5 days.
It's the reason I didn't think what Max Scherzer did was smart, not taking his,
He's betting on himself.
Right. But the problem is, it's one thing to bet on yourself if you're not, beholden to your body and what it is or isn't capable of doing.
Yeah.
It's another thing to bet on yourself.
What did he pass up, $142 million?
I think that was the number. I don't know, Jeff or
come
John,
on, man.
if you
Listen,
could look
let
at
me
the
ask you a
exact
question.
number. Yeah.
Kershaw's a bad boy.
Yeah.
Kershaw's on another level.
He's incredible.
He's incredible. Is he $100 million better than Scherzer? $100 million. Come on, Ryan.
Probably not. No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's where you turn down the 142.
Right. The problem is what happens if you never get to that contract because you hurt your arm because it's pitching.
I agree with you. You're betting on yourself.
And I know he took out an insurance policy. I'm not sure how much it covers of his potential earnings, but it's still, 144 is what he turned down. 6 years, 144, I think was the deal that he turned down.
You're betting on yourself.
Right. The problem is it's so volatile that, what kind of money do you actually get if you end up hurting your arm? I mean, because it's not as if it's something you have an exact idea of. It's not a hamstring injury where if you stretch properly and you roll it, you use the roller every day. No. I mean, you could be feeling great and all of a sudden that elbow goes. 1-800-919-3776, the telephone number on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline. Brian Cashman, another thing he addressed yesterday was the suggestion of Darvish, about the 6-man rotation.
I love him.
Yeah,
I love Darvish.
Oh, he's terrific. Let's hear what Cashman thought about that next with Stephen A. and Ruocco on ESPN New York.
Thanks for listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Be sure to listen weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Is that Frank Caliendo sitting down?
I just want to say caught up in the backdrop of the 1870 Friends. Here I am, ready to go. I'm just trying to figure out where we're even at this point. I've been all over. I know you've done this many times, from First Take, being all over Sports Center and all the effervescent tranquility in which you provide people with incredible entertainment. But let me tell you this. You have never, ever been through what I've been through today. What's up, Frank? How you doing, man? Why don't I just step aside and let Ryan interview you? How about that? I just need to step aside and let that happen.
We have a Stephen A. in the building. Good to hear from you, Frank. I've seen you all over today doing your thing. When you're reading of LeBron's letter as Morgan Freeman.
He's going to call you one day, Morgan Freeman. He's going to call you one day.
It was terrific.
And if I start making money on it, he will. Yes, I hear you made a couple of dollars on that. We're going to have to talk.
It made me think of, remember last time when you were in studio, we had you read the Stephen A. article as Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that was great, too. I mean, what people didn't hear in what's going viral right now is that on the radio, on Mike and Mike, there was actually music behind it. I had them put the Shawshank music behind it, and then it sounds even better.
Wow.
So if you put Shawshank music behind that, it's
we got to check it out.
Yeah, because you can't, for legality reasons or legal reasons and stuff like that. So
that
was almost used there for a second.
Internet, though? Yes.
Yeah. So they just did the feed.
You got to give me the link. I'll put it out there. Yeah. I got to get the link.
Oh, okay.
I got to get the link. I got to put it out there.
Stephen A. is Teflon when it comes to the law, Frank. You don't know that?
I understand. I know where we're coming from. Do you realize who I am? Stephen A. Smith. I'm not Stephen B. Smith. I'm not Stephen C. Smith. I'm Stephen A. You know why? Because I'm at the head of the class.
I wouldn't say that. Mama the one that gave me the A as an initial for Anthony, man.
By the way, I want to say this because in New York, I'm actually doing a couple of dates. And you can go to frankonstage.com. If you look it up, I was too dumb to do it on the way over here. But there's a New Jersey date, and I think a date right outside of Long Island or around there. So I know your audience is frankonstage.com.
Frankonstage.com.
And Frank, I know you have the special on Friday night at 7 o'clock on ESPN, the best and worst of Frank. What can we look forward to with that? Do we have a lot of the NFL analysts that you have going out there?
Yeah, well, we took the 30 for 30 stuff, the Gruden with Gruden, and a couple other sketches. We air the full sketches of those. We have a couple of different pieces from some other sketches people might not have seen. And then, because I decided that ESPN doesn't have enough panel shows, that what I would do is create my own panel of John Gruden, Coach Ditka, and Mel Kiper Jr., and they kind of comment, they being me, comment on each of those. It's built. It came off the draft and watching the draft really. Right. Because if you watched, Kiper would say stuff and Gruden would be like, I don't think that's the way it's going to go. Kiper's like, I'll tell you what, man. I'm not even sure which impression I was doing. Did you hear that I got lost trying to figure out who it was? I was looking at Stephen A. Smith.
That's
I was trying to do John Gruden.
That's right.
And I was doing Mel Kiper Jr. all the same time. Didn't work out, but I tell you what, eventually he got there. When he did, it worked out good.
Now, let me ask you this. How much work are you going to be doing with the NFL show this year?
I'm on every couple of weeks.
Okay.
They what they do is they generally try to get me to do more. And my problem is I can only come up with so much stuff that I think is going to work. And I'm trying to do newer stuff. I'm going to try and get a couple other people involved, like Jay Farrow. I think he'd be fun to work with.
Yes, he would.
And have him do some stuff and maybe promote Saturday Night Live while he's doing it.
Right.
That's the way I think he's a great guy. Fantastic. Right. You know him.
I know him very well.
So he's one guy, a couple other guys, maybe get them involved. Some of the stuff I like doing as a me thing, but there's other stuff that I think could be great as a team effort.
Frank, I know we got to get you back to TV in a couple minutes. Can we have you just run through a couple couple of pressure. Could we get a little? I love your Berman, man, and I love the hand motions that go with it too.
Yeah, it's like he's always playing paper football.
Yeah,
you know, his hands are field goal and no field goal. you got to time it. That's what I'm talking. I say what you will about Frank Kelly, but he's trying. He's over here, and this is really a network about sports news. I understand. We've got the insiders and stuff like that, but every once in a while, we will work Frank Kelly into it, and it's going to be painful sometimes, but sometimes it's going to be good. I understand. What? Yeah.
How about the Schefter's on point too, Frank? I love that one.
He's always fun, and it's always according to my sources. At this particular time, it appears that something has gone wrong with Tom Brady. We thought it was just a yawn, and turns out that's what it is. There was no case of oxygen deprivation disorder. He just needed to get some air. If you need any more information, I'll be right here in front of my bookcase, ready to go.
You know, how about, I'm sure you have John Gruden thoughts on Johnny Manziel, right?
I'll tell you what, I love Johnny Manziel. I don't care if he can't get on all the rides at Disney World, man. This guy, he's got abilities, not unlike Russell Wilson. You look at Russell Wilson, a fantastic people don't care about hand size or how fast you can run. I'll tell you what, it all comes down to how good are you, man.
Who's the coach? Last question. Who's the coach that you haven't imitated that you're dying to do an imitation of?
Oh, the
NFL
coach.
Or the NBA level that we haven't seen yet.
You know, I'm trying to think who would be a guy. Peyton Manning is the athlete that I think there's something to do with him. I think because he is everywhere. But as far as a coach, I don't have a Harbaugh voice yet. I just wave my arms around frantically. Right. I'd love to be able to get that voice down. Belichick is just kind of mumbling. It's one of those kinds of things.
All right, not if you watch the film of him. You watch some of that stuff on the NFL, boy. Yeah. Belichick be cursing folks out, man.
He turns around and yells a little bit. Yeah, we're.
How about, Frank, we've been having people tweet at us, like just suggestions, something they'd love to hear you do in Stephen A's voice. Now, a lot of people want to hear this.
He's got to go, Ryan.
I know.
Hurry up.
We have this drop.
I fantasize about things. That's just who I am.
Can we have you do Stephen A like that?
I fantasize just about things. That's who I am.
See, it's good. You really.
I fantasize. That's just who I am. Caliendo's got to go.
You got to go, man.
I appreciate it. And like I said, frankonstage.com. Get things right. Can you look that up?
November 13th, November 14th, November 15th. I just looked. Montclair, Huntington, and Atlantic City, Frank.
Perfect.
So we will make sure to get that out.
I got the ISDN line. I'd love to call on you guys throughout the season and stuff like that. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
The 7 o'clock special, East Coast time on ESPN tomorrow.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Nelly, that's the other part of it, too. Just to respond to the caller. Now you are in the public eye, so it's a little bit different, but I feel like these rules apply to any job. It's not unique to Ray Rice, the NFL player. Right. You put your hands on a woman, you do something outside the workplace, and work finds out, they're going to take care of you. They're going to discipline you in a certain way.
Of course, because you're responsible to representing your job on and off the court. On and off the court, on and off the stage, on and off whatever it is that you're doing. If they don't like how you're carrying yourself sociably, they're going to have a say about it.
See, I got love for you. I know I don't act like that when we on first take,
man.
Nelly, but
you were difficult on Nelly on first take.
You know what it is.
I'm always difficult with my man here.
He's supposed to be.
Exactly. But what I love about, and Ryan, I'm gonna transition from it this way. What I love about what I'm seeing from you, actors. You work on just the show with Kevin Hart and Boris Kodjoe and the whole crew. Real Housewives, husbands, in Hollywood and stuff. I guess what I love about what I'm seeing from a lot of guys in today's day and age is being cognizant of the fact that so much about it is a business. And to me, it's making dudes act even better than they normally would have in the past. Not to knock anybody, but I'm just saying everybody's cognizant of that. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I think it's just about dealing with the reality of what things are. I think that's what people are becoming more conscious about. Like, you can say what it shouldn't do, but this is what happens. So you have to be, conscious of the reality. Like, if I do that, I mean, it probably shouldn't, but it is. Right. You know what I'm saying? And you can sit there and you can beg about it, you can cry about it, but, that's going to happen. And is it worth losing everything that you've built up for that chance of will it or won't it?
Nelly, I think fans in this area, they have an issue with you today because they get a chance to go at you because your Cardinals did not take care of the Red Sox last year for us in the World Series, and I know you're a huge Cardinal fan.
It came up short.
I mean, somebody didn't tell Big Papi that somebody kept pitching to Big Papi for some reason. I don't know what that was about.
Oh, I know. At some point, you just got to put him on. The guy is unbelievable in that series.
Do anything. He was very, very determined, man. And, I'm a huge Big Papi fan. I can't even, say anything about it. And the guy, he unleashed it. He'll walk into the Hall of Fame.
How much attention have you been paying to baseball this season?
I'm a Cardinal fan, so a little bit, not probably as much, but I'm definitely up on our race.
Are you cognizant of the fact that baseball has dipped so much in popularity?
Even
though they would say they would deny it, they would tell you that people are watching them. But for me, Ryan, if you don't have the younger generation, then you're in your pocket, then the popularity of your sport is on the way down.
It's a double-edged sword. I said that when the whole investigation broke out, I said, it's part of the reason why baseball, they knew what they had on their hands. They understood that, there's a reason why we're not going to do this strict testing, because we understand that the popularity of our sport may be in jeopardy as far as people being interested. Who wants to come see 1 and 2-run games and sit there? You know what I'm saying? It's all about, it's all about offense. It's all about offense in any sport. You want to see more scoring in basketball. You want to see more scoring in football. You want to see more scoring in baseball.
Hold on, Nelly. Is that your way of saying that you wouldn't care if dudes were pumped up steroids or whatever they smacking home runs out of the ballpark?
No, I'm not going to say I wouldn't care because I understand what's behind it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want the kids to think that this is an okay thing to do. But if you're paying for entertainment, a lot of the people are paying for entertainment. They're not paying for the authenticity of the game. They're paying to be entertained for that day. You see what I'm saying? Some people don't, they don't care. Some people just don't care. It's the same way in music. Some people don't want their music to be so messagey, so to speak. Some people just want to dance. You know what I'm saying? And they pay for just want to dance.
Well, let me ask you this now. If people are, how do you look at, and I'm trying to think if you've ever used auto-tune or if you do at all.
I've used it. I've used it before. It's not my thing. I didn't.
Do you look at it as like a shortcut? Do you look at it as kind of like, if you're listening to an artist and he's always using auto-tune, do you look at it and say that's fake? I don't respect that guy?
Well, I put it in this explanation. If you look at a coach who was mainly a run-first coach, and now he's in a league where everything is pass first, and he's still trying to run the ball first, where would he be in this league right about now if he wasn't throwing the football?
Yeah, he'd be the Jets.
You see what I'm saying? Of course. The first thing you have to be is versatile. You have to understand that evolution is inevitable. If you don't evolve and if you don't pay attention to what's going on, then you will get left behind. And it's a lot of rappers have been done that way. They refuse to change their style. They refuse to adapt. I give you a perfect person who's learned how to adapt. LL Cool J.
I was getting ready to bring him up.
LL Cool J is great. Snoop Dogg, a great adapter. Puff Daddy, great adapter. Jay-Z has learned to adapt. He's not king on the auto-tune, but he's doing different things than he was doing when he first came out. So you have to learn how to adapt, and it's the same thing in sports, man. I think they should create a league where all everything goes. They should create a league. Just see how entertaining it'll be. Let them do what they want to do. It's for entertainment.
We're talking to Nelly, rap artist extraordinaire, music director. He does it all right here with Stephen A. Ryan Ruocco on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. Let me stay with baseball, but on a different subject. You heard about how Jose Canseco has been chasing Mark McGwire around, basically talking about he wanted to apologize. I'm sorry for what I did, diming you out with his book Juiced and all of that stuff from years ago. we asked a question on First Take. You wanted to be involved in that, but we had to run. Right. So I'm going to ask you right here on the radio. If you were Mark McGwire, would you forgive Jose Canseco for what he did? Even though he was telling the truth, how would you feel about it?
I first of all, I'm a Scorpio. I don't know if I even believe in that. So
I am too, Nelly. So I understand, bro.
I'm one of those ones when you burn us like that, and we consider you a friend. That there's no replenishing that. You know what I'm saying?
And I feel the same way.
And he did it to the point to where all that work that Mark McGwire put into his whole life to be kind of singled out like that by someone that you trusted. I again, like you said, it was the truth. Obviously, but I think he's taking it a lot personal. When you take stuff personal, it's beyond repair sometimes.
Ryan, Nelly, what I said on First Take today was this. I brought up Andy Pettitte and Roger Clemens.
Right.
To me, Andy Pettitte telling on Roger Clemens is entirely different because he was subpoenaed.
Right.
And he had no choice. He was under oath. They forced him to come forward.
Definitely.
He didn't want to come forward.
Definitely.
He didn't do anything like that.
Definitely.
Jose Canseco wrote a book, was about making money, didn't give a damn about what impact it would have on you.
He was scorned.
Right.
He was scorned. And anytime you do stuff out of spite, I think that's what people can't forgive. You did it out of spite. You did it.
Or jealousy and envy.
Right. You were hurt. You were hurt, and they tried to blackball you, and you decided, well, I'll tell you what, he's doing it, he's doing it.
Mark McGwire had nothing to do with you being blackballed.
Nothing to do with you being blackballed, and sometimes that's unrepairable.
Nelly, I gotta ask you a music question. Because I know you've had some, obviously you've had some huge hits, you have 3 Grammys, you've had some really great collaborations. Who's an artist you have not collaborated with that you really would like to still in your career?
Oh, wow. Just for my purposes and for a lot, I love to create, and I have no problem with collaborating from any genre of music. But for me, Stevie Wonder would be one. I would definitely love to just hear the song, even if it doesn't come out. I would just love to hear that.
Right.
I'm pretty much open, man. I love a lot of the classic guys. I love Hall & Oates a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Hall & Oates was serious.
I love, obviously I said Stevie Wonder. I love, Ron Isley, the Isley Brothers.
That's
you
right.
know what I'm saying? And
I
love the Boss.
Oh yeah,
I love Bruce Springsteen. Yeah, of course.
Fan, huh?
You know what I'm saying? So it's different for me.
More modernized. I loved R. Kelly until all that noise came out about it.
Well,
it just ain't the same.
Yeah.
It just ain't the same.
Yeah, that's
when he started rapping with those love lyrics, I'm like, is he talking about somebody's teenager? I just don't know. I just don't know, Ryan. I just don't know.
Crazy, yes.
I just don't know.
Sometimes on this show, Nelly, I don't know if you ever heard Stephen A. sing, but it's something that he loves to do on this show. He really does.
Pathological liar.
He's a bathroom he's a bathroom Grammy winner.
That's right. I'll wake you up in the morning.
Dominates that shower mic. Yeah, he does.
Everybody sound good.
You know what? Before we let you get out of here, Nelly, before I'm going to ask you what you're doing with yourself these days because I want us to know. But Ryan, you missed it. Do you know? I won't call him a hater, but he's kind of critical about your boy Kobe, Ryan.
Is he?
He's kind of critical. This is Ryan Ruocco's all-time favorite player.
My favorite player of all time, Nelly. Why are you being critical about Kobe?
I was asked the question about him. You know what I'm saying?
We're like, who knew that you'd feel that way?
What would you say
that's what
about
I'm saying. Well, listen, I said how I saw it. You know what I'm saying? And when you're dealing with a player such as Kobe, I think and again, I'll use that as saying it's a double-edged sword. Here you have someone that is a great scorer, but he's also tough to play with in a sense of, especially for younger guys. Younger guys have grown up watching this cat. So when they step on the court, they're so intimidated by him. It looks like sometimes they don't know when to play their game and when not to play their game. And I think that comes with, I think in order for Kobe to break that, you have to, it goes with being off the court. It goes with being around and to show them that, yo, man, we're regular guys, and I'm your brother, and I want my brother to have a good game because you're living in this social era, and I think that's what has allowed a lot of the other players to have successful and to attract those players that want to play with them. I think that's what allows LeBron to attract players. I think that's what allows San Antonio to be the type of team that they are, that they get along on and off the court, and it's not Kobe's fault. again, like Stephen A. alluded to earlier, that, this is what has been raised of him, and that was my point when I made it last time. Like, this is the guy that LA has raised, and this is who he is, and it's not his fault, but it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough to get the type of players that LA is going to need for them to win another championship. But to put it all fair, I don't hate Kobe Bryant.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? I do not hate Kobe Bryant. I don't like when people say that. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's one of the greatest scorers to ever play the game. But I think the way that his personality is, it's not meshing with the way that these young players are and coming into this league.
Nelly, know you got to run. Thank you so much for the wealth of time.
No doubt.
It's
what you
great
doing with yourself real quick, man?
Well, Real Husbands of Hollywood Season 3 comes out in October. I just finished up a tour, first time ever, country and hip-hop was meshed together.
Which I heard was terrific. Yeah.
Oh, man, it was awesome. It was awesome. 20,000 plus every night. Me and myself and Florida Georgia Line, we did that thing, and it was crazy. We're talking about doing it again later on. And I go back in the studio in November.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
This Sunday at the Brickyard, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series returns to ESPN. Jimmy, Junior, Brad, and Joey lead the field. The race to the all-new Chase is on. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 7 races to go. The Battle at the Brickyard, Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN. Presented by Golden Corral.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Stephen, what did you think about the Ray Rice punishment and whether or not it fit the crime? A 2-game suspension for Ray Rice.
Contrary to what appears to be popular belief anyway, I thought the punishment, I thought the punishment for the crime was appropriate. I thought the 2 games was apropos because we don't know specifically what happened. We heard the report. We don't have visual evidence as to what transpired. At least the NFL hasn't told us. The police didn't necessarily tell us. And as a result of that, the subsequent press conferences, him marrying the woman, them working out their differences, their family, their parents being involved. I think that he was proactive in trying to address the matter. Combine that with the fact that up until this incident, he had nothing whatsoever to impugn his name, his integrity, his reputation, etc. By all accounts, this is something that was in complete aberration and foreign to anything we've ever known about Ray Rice. In light of that reality, I just felt that all those things being considered, it was appropriate.
There's something that is definitely just off about a system in which you have players being suspended for weed much more harshly than they are for a domestic violence act or something that appears to be a domestic violence act. However, that is a problem more so with how harsh the punishments are for smoking marijuana rather than how light the punishment is for the Ray Rice situation. Because I do think you're right, Stephen, that we can't forget we didn't see exactly what transpired as horrible as it looks.
And this is what I keep trying to tell people, in terms of breaking the law and using drugs, in terms of on-field incidences that transpire, there's more palpable evidence to basically submit a definitive verdict. Now, I know people would sit there and say, well, he was dragging out the elevator. I remember when I first saw it, I said, he dragged out the elevator like she was a piece of trash. I said, I thought this is ridiculous. You got to deal with them. But clearly the NFL performed their due diligence in conjunction with the local law enforcement officials, and whatever evidence they have evidently suffices, and as a result, they came down with the ruling that they came down. When you talk about marijuana use, Now, there are some people that go, oh, come on, man, that's not a big deal. Well, the league mandates that it's illegal to use performance-enhancing drugs. And there is a testing process that takes place, or not even just PEDs, but also marijuana. So if you are discovered to have used marijuana, that is in direct violation of league rules. And as a result of that, there's a penalty that's issued for that. If Ray Rice had struck his wife and we all saw it, I am sure that the penalty would have been stiffer. But clearly there are different interpretations as to what happened. Both of them have not been completely forthcoming about what happened, combined with the fact that they were they were engaged at the time. Now they still got married. You know, they went to counseling. Their parents were at their press conference. The family was involved. The Ravens have knowledge of the situation, et cetera, et cetera. There's a bevy of reasons to say, okay, we have to hand down the penalty to make sure it's understood that you can't find yourself in this situation. But without all the particulars at our disposal, you know, without the level of evidence that we need, it's pretty difficult to take a definitive position on this outside of the fact that you found yourself in this situation. You can't allow it to impugn the integrity of the league.
The one thing I would say is I still think the NFL made a mistake by not suspending him for a longer period of time. Now, I think 4 games was probably the number they should have gone for. Look, over the past 3 years...
I wouldn't have had a problem with that either, by the way.
Right. I think that would have been the number that would have satisfied people more, because I think 2 games... It's a dumb PR move by the NFL. Even if they feel like, based on prior incidents, based on the precedents that have been set for these sort of indiscretions and these sort of crimes in their league, that 2 games was appropriate. You know, the NFL is also acutely aware of their public image. And this is a very, very, very dumb decision PR-wise, because 2 games, just the number 2, seems incredibly light. And it is met with, just go on Twitter. Look at any NFL writer you follow. You know, right now the outcry is, how on earth does Ray Rice only get 2 games for that? What is the NFL doing? And the thing I think about, Stephen, and it's something I saw our colleague Michelle Beadle tweeting about as well, the NFL has made a real pointed push to get their product to females over the last couple of years for a variety of reasons. One, female interest in the NFL has been skyrocketing. Also, they want to ingrain the mothers into NFL society in part to keep kids active and in the sport rather than have them deviating based on their mother's fears. Well, guess what? That decision is not an attractive one to women. That is going to be met with total scorn. And just for the PR aspect of it alone, I think it is a dumb decision by the NFL.
Well, I agree with that. I don't argue with that at all. I'm sure females out there would have liked a stiffer penalty. I still think the 2 games were appropriate in light of what we witnessed has transpired from the time the incident occurred to all of these back-channeled stories that have disseminated since that period of time to sort of help this die down. So on that level, I think 2 games is appropriate. But if you're going off of strictly what we thought we saw and the momentum that carried and the fact that the NFL wants to make sure it sends the appropriate message, I can't definitively say I disagree with 4 games, Ryan. I don't. 4 games probably would have been best. I just don't have problems with the 2.
And by the way, the other thing I'd say is when we're dealing with, to me, hitting a woman is just disgusting and one of the more egregious things you can do.
Totally agree.
If you are going to err on the side of high or low when it comes to that sort of incident, I would much rather you err on the side of suspending him longer rather than shorter. The ironic part of it, though, to me is, Stephen, normally the public outcry when it comes to NFL players being suspended is how the players are treated unfairly, how they're not given the benefit of the doubt, how their punishment is too harsh in this league.
And in this particular instance, he was given the benefit of the doubt.
That's right.
He was treated with incredible leniency on the part of the NFL.
Exactly. And that's where I feel like there's almost an inconsistency. Now, it's a different punishment than some others, but don't you feel like normally people have a real problem with the way players are punished and how drastic the punishments are? And in this case, it's the exact opposite. You have people saying, no, that punishment was not hard enough.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
This Sunday at the Brickyard, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series returns to ESPN. Jimmy, Junior, Brad, and Joey lead the field. The race to the all-new Chase is on. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 7 races to go. The Battle at the Brickyard, Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN. Presented by Golden Corral.